Okay, hello, welcome back to Hollow Knight. Monday night was a bit of a blur because I was basically asleep. But, if I recall correctly, we had just gotten the Mothwing Cape and fell into some acid like a dummy. And we were going to go explore, see what else we could open up with the new upgrade, which is more or less how these games go. The Mothwing Cape just makes movement in general much easier to deal with. Gives you a lot more mid-air mobility, as well as it makes you just go a little faster. There's always something below me. I should really look. Oh, I did it again. It's fine. Health in this game is unlimited. No comment. Enemies that spit projectiles like that can be extremely irritating. Speaking of extremely irritating enemies that shoot projectiles, these guys can also be a pain in the butt. But they are weak to the good old-fashioned Phantom Ganon strategy. If you just knock their spores back at them, you'll defeat them fairly easily. The timing window is quite generous because they don't move very quickly. This guy's a little bit more difficult because you sort of have to line yourself up on the right level, and he won't spawn until you go down a little. Here's another dark area. We've seen a couple of these so far. The inside is even darker, and we cannot make any meaningful progress in here at the moment, but I just wanted to get this area out of the way so I knew where to find it later. When we can see, it becomes a much more important venue. Oh yeah, the Mothwing Cloak. It gives you much better mid-air mobility and shit. Yeah. I'm definitely not terrible at this game. Ugh. Moving on. Another perfectly valid strategy for the spore spitters is to just walk by. They're quite weak to being ignored. You pretty much have to ignore these ones, just because it's basically impossible to get into a spot where you can line up the shot with the spore. This guy's sort of a mini-boss. Unlike the smaller versions of this enemy, he can actually do leaps, so jumping over him is not always the best thing. Usually is, though. But as his health gets lower, he gets faster, and it's easier to get tripped up. The jumping attack is annoying because you can get overall less hits in on him. This fight is mostly just about being patient and waiting for him to move before you do. We get a unique journal entry and a whole bunch of geo for our victory, so it's worthwhile. Did I miss any? I don't think so. Whoops. So this is a new mechanic, sort of. I glossed over it briefly the last time I streamed. And basically, the way to get past some of these hazardous areas is to use enemies to pogo off of. I believe I could have just made it by dashing, but I wanted to demonstrate what the game sort of intends for you to do in these situations. This leads to a whole new area, and I'm not quite ready to go down there yet. Full disclosure, I'm not as tired as the last time I streamed, but I'm still a little tired. Whoops. Those guys are entirely peaceful, and I didn't need to swing, but I did. I guess I got a journal entry out of it. I got a bit of a cross counter there. This is where the whole bouncing mechanic becomes more salient. I can't dash across this entire gap, so I have to get a little help from the wandering armored bug. Money! properly, you have to get into a sort of rhythm with it. It's not the end of the world if you mistime it and get hit. Because you'll usually get bounced back up from hitting the carapace. Can't quite make that. Hopping on enemies like that also resets your movement abilities. As long as you have something to bounce off of, you can basically stay in the air indefinitely in this game, which is pretty neat. There is, whoops, one more area in the green path. I did it again. I'm a monster. There's one more area in the green path that we can access now that we have the dash and did not before. However, it's sort of out of the way. It's all the way back up where we fought the boss, and there's a quicker way to get back there. So instead, let's move on to the next area. Welcome to the Fog Canyon. This area fucking sucks. Fortunately, we don't have to stay very long for now. The primary enemy we fight here are these jelly things. And the big ones explode if you hit them, and explosions do like two masks of damage. It's a really bad scene. Case in point. Now, we can hear Cornifer in this room. Unfortunately... Whoops. Unfortunately, I fell into acid again. Unfortunately, we can't actually reach him right now because of this strange black barrier. We currently possess no way to break it or pass through, so we'll simply have to come back later. Or perhaps come around from a different side. We will have to go mapless for the time being, but we honestly don't have access to most of this area until later, so it balances out alright. Comedy of errors there. It's usually better to just ignore the big jellyfish because the explosions hurt so much, but they can still hit you. There he is. Quite frankly, full to the brim with hazards. It's a bit off-putting to visitors. Don't have a map for this area either. It does look an awful lot like the green path, though. Unfortunately, we've got another one of these annoying black barriers, so we can't do anything here, like at all. Maybe if we could bounce off walls, we'd have a better time? The search continues. Regrettably still without a map. Perhaps I've not been clear, but I really, really appreciate my maps. And this is another dead end. The fog canyon is kind of annoying because, in addition to just being full of exploding jellyfish and whatnot, it's sort of just this exercise and you'd better come back later. And obviously, games like this thrive on that sort of thing, but there is a limit to how much you can do in one place before you start to roll your eyes.
Oh, Bakura Finero.
Millabell offers the somewhat useful service of storing geo. I'll store a little bit just in case, but I'm usually pretty good about getting my stuff back when I die. I am a bit of a veteran.
Geo Kalala.
I didn't actually mean to talk to her there again, but sometimes the analog stick in two-dimensional games can be a little finicky. This is a unique little sub-area, the Queen Station, and here's QUIRREL again.
Goa, nudo ailamak. Na minobis.
As QUIRREL mentioned, there's not any enemies in this area. Fortunately, we can't get through that gate, so the shiny on the other side will have to wait. We don't want to go into the fungal waste just yet. There's still more to do in the station. This is mostly an area that just sort of serves to connect two areas. It's small, it's only a couple rooms.
Zuma ela merma. Yakuya. Ya.
Not much we can do with Willow at the moment. She's just having a snack. The main point of interest is, of course, excuse me, the stag station. We want to head back to the green path for the moment. As I mentioned, there was an area up here we couldn't get to before we had the Mothwing Cloak. Fast travel is just so extremely helpful in this game. Ah, there's two of them. actually sort of forgot about that little fight. I must have not done it last time because there's unclaimed geo deposits. Oh, I died! Shit! Alright, well, I guess now is as good a time as any to show off the death and recovery mechanic. You respawn at the last bench you were at. You'll notice that my soul meter looks broken. Until I reclaim my shit, it will only fill up to about 2/3 of the way it normally does, which is, of course, kind of annoying. There we go. You just have to kill that little specter and you get everything you lost back. Not very difficult. Top ourselves off here. This is back where we first met Zote the Mighty. You may recall that the last time we were here, we sort of lacked the necessary movement check to actually progress at all. Now that we have the Mothwing Cloak as I overshoot the platform, now that we have the Mothwing Cloak, we should be able to make more progress here and see if there's any goodies. Which is basically the primary reason I do anything. This chest is a bit of a trick. It only gives you 1 geo, so it entices you to look for more. And if you jump inside, you fall down into this little fight. It's best to focus on one at a time so you don't get overwhelmed. Shoot out a little man! Come on! There we go. This fight can take a little while because there's 2 of them and you can only damage them with Vengeful Spirit. But here we are. Our reward for this little encounter is, in addition to a path we can't quite take yet, the Boulder Shell. The Boulder Shell is a sort of useful charm. It gives you a defensive barrier when you heal, but it doesn't seem to work half the time. certainly there's nothing... I mean, there's no downside to equipping it, but it does seem at times a little bit underpowered or maybe even non-functional. At any rate, with that little errand completed, we can move on. I believe that it's been a while since we visited Dirtmouth. And I don't really want to mess with those two any more than I have to, so I'm moving on. So I believe what I'm going to do is take the Stagway and just head on back to Dirtmouth and see what's happened in our absence. I believe that we have a shopkeeper now.
Akala, tono. Oh, chitari. Madaula, misu. Yolo no tugobis. Akala, tono.
The Elderbug will usually appraise you of any new developments in the village as they happen. And it's just nice to talk to him every now and again. Be polite.
¿Qué volen más? Patmos, Gio.
Sly the shopkeeper sells a variety of useful things, all of them quite expensive. The real prize for now is the Lumafly lantern, which we don't have enough geo for, even if I hadn't deposited anything. So I think I'm just gonna get the Gathering Swarm, the charm I mentioned that keeps geo from flying all over the place, and content myself with that for now. Now, unfortunately, with this configuration, we can only use the Gathering Swarm in the Wayward Compass because we don't have enough charm notches. These cost 2, while those cost 1. We'll get more eventually, but for now, we have to content ourselves with this. Oh, there's Zote. Hey, Zote.
Mia chiaro. Barama. Mia chiaro. Mia chiaro.
Zote remains kind of an asshole, but you know. You know.
Papa nada.
It's just good practice to buy all of the pins that you can. It makes navigation that much easier. Oh, hello, this is a new face.
Caseto bueno. Serema. Serema.
Before we head back down to the fungal waste, which is our next destination along the critical path, there are a couple of things to do here in the Forgotten Crossroads. First order of business is to visit the Grub Father, because we rescued quite a few grubs since last we visited him, and he might have something nice.
Oh,
And so he does. This is our first mask shard. If we collect 4, we get an extra notch in our health bar. As you can imagine, these are very worthwhile to collect. We also got a whole bunch of geo for our trouble, so rescuing grubs is both a good deed and quite lucrative. Regrettably, the Gathering Swarm does not actually activate immediately. It's not like a magnetic field, it's actually bugs that get the stuff for you. So you do sort of have to wait around, and that's kind of a bummer, but... all in all, having it equipped is probably going to get you a lot more geo than time. Then you will lose time, I mean. You'd think speaking of time, you'd think after all the time I've spent doing stuff like this, I would be better at talking on my feet, so to speak. But I'm not. I'm still really bad at it. Sometimes the little collector bugs get confused and just fly around you for a while, which is kind of cute. The real point of interest in making this little backtrack right now is this. We saw this chortling house earlier on and we couldn't get to it. With the Mothwing Cloak, we can.
Mariba osso.
Salubra is the charm vendor. Sly sold a couple, but Salubra is where a lot of the really good charms can be found for a fairly reasonable price. She also sells charm notches, which let you equip more charms. However, they are gated behind the fact that you need to have a certain amount of charms before she will sell them to you. For now, I'm going to grab the long nail and a shard, because I don't need money. Money is fake. Conveniently, Salubra has a bench right outside, so you can equip charms as much as you want. I'm equipping the long nail for now, which just increases the range of your nail. It's not huge, but it's a perceptible difference and it's useful. Anything that keeps you a little bit safer is worthwhile. Anyway, we need to head back to the nearest Stagway station and head back to the Queen station so we can get to the fungal wastes. Once you know where the Stagways are, then getting around in this game is actually fairly easy. Not trivial, but fairly easy. You still have to get there, of course, to the individual stations, but they're usually laid out in such a way that that's never a huge burden. Compared to the mossy guys in the green path, those guys are nothing.
Nya, serema. Sano.
This guy's also kind of a dick, but, you know. I've got things to do. I don't have time to prove myself as a true warrior by walking places. As you might have noticed, the game really opens up once you get a means to wall jump. So that's sort of next on the agenda. There's a paper trail. Cornifer must be nearby. The enemies in the fungal wastes are quite amusing. Most of them aren't very dangerous either. There's lots of emphasis on vertical exploration in this area. And these fucking things. They shoot homing explosives, and as we learned in the last zone, explosives fucking suck. On the bright side, they are not invulnerable to their own blasts, so if you're feeling a little bit, bold, then you can just run their own balls into them. For coming up here, we get a Hallow Nest seal, which is a sort of collectible trinket kind of a thing. Its use will become apparent a bit later, and it's quite useful. Let's get out of this terrible place. Try and find our buddy Cornifer. Some more paper.
Make him no kuchin.
We always purchase a map, even though we're getting down to a very low amount of geo.
Correct this. Chocolate, correct this.
The fungal wastes smell quite bad, apparently, but the Hollow Knight appears not to have a nose. We're next introduced to these little bouncy shrooms, which you can pogo off of to get a lot more height. Until we have some more advanced movement options, they are quite useful for getting around. Seems we can't get through that fairly sturdy-looking door. But with map in hand, I'm more confident to go back up and see what we can find elsewhere. The guys with the little mushroom hats remind me of those specific kind of heartless in the first Kingdom Hearts that you had to like juggle to get good items. That's very specific, but they remind me of that. We've got some more sploders up here. Thankfully, they are not too difficult to just ignore. The Gathering Storm is so convenient. Locked doors, not so much. I love these guys, they make great noises. They're not too difficult to defeat either. It only takes a couple hits and they move fairly predictably. As is appropriate for the fungal waste, most of the enemies here are fungus themed. Or as the Elderbug said, not quite plant and not quite bug, which is a fairly accurate description of fungoids. This encounter is another mini-boss of sorts. However, these guys are so big and slow, it's not very difficult. The main danger is getting blindsided by an attack from one of the other ones while you're focusing on the other. But they go down without too much trouble, and once you get one alone, they're fairly trivial because they don't have very many methods of attack. The long nail is coming in handy here because I sort of outranged their headbutt. For our troubles, we get a charm notch. One of the very few we can actually get by not paying money to Salubra. Lots of acidic water in these parts. That was poorly timed by me. I completely missed this guy on my first playthrough. Yeah, sure, whatever. This guy is altogether quite greedy. He sells special charms that have powerful effects but break on death, and you need to repair them for, of course, more geo. Fortunately, the Fragile Greed charm sort of aids in that endeavor and just increases the amount of geo that you get. I think I'm going to go ahead and equip it now since I'm a little tapped out. What an awkward amount of charm slots. If we find another one-cost one, we can equip it, but for now we're rolling with full utility. The Leg Eater is useful not only for his services as a charm salesman, but because there's a bench there that I, again, completely missed on my first playthrough. It made traversing this area a little bit of a pain. I'll miss the long nail a little, but not too much. And of course, if I ever remember it, I do have magic that I can use. For our upwards explorations, we get a shortcut back to the Forgotten Crossroads. We could have also come in this way with the Mothwing Cape, but it's not. Which way you come is not an especially big deal. This floor appears to be unsteady, but we can't break it with our nail, so we'll have to come back when we have more oomph. The Fungal Waste is a pretty large area. One of the larger in the game, I would say. It encompasses a number of subzones. Oh. Always look down, by the way. Why am I like this? What have I done? I'm looking down this time. I think I'm having some sort of stage fright-induced episode. I'm clumsy, but I'm not this clumsy. Dodged it that time. I am the best. Enemies are not immune to acid, by the way. Unless they are. The armored bugs that we found in the green path are, but that's sort of their special thing. The spore launchers are almost never worth it to fight. Get me out of here.
Lienkla, Frieden Leia. No Kunenailo. No Kunenailo.
This is Cloth, an NPC that I always seem to mess up the quest of. Well, I shouldn't say always, because I've only played through this game once, but I messed it up then, so get off my back. We will maybe meet her somewhere down the line. This appears to be a grave of some sort. But I'm not really in a desecration sort of mood today. Also, I feel like since nobody has said anything in the chat, I feel like I need to ask, can people hear me? Are you actually there? Is my mic working? I hope my mic is working. I'd hate to have just been talking for no reason for the past 45 minutes. Even the geo deposits are shaped like mushrooms? Okay, I'm totally audible. That's good. There have been times where that has not been the case, and I have felt very foolish. No acid death traps down here. At least none that aren't caused by enemies. Can't seem to quite make it up from that angle, so we need to go around. That didn't quite go how I wanted it to. There we go. This appears to be a shortcut of sorts, but it's also kind of dangerous, so your mileage may vary. Now, you might think I'm bad, and that's fair, but have you ever considered that I just like exfoliating acid baths? There's Hornet again. She's still perfectly fine. So, the path branches a bit here. We have the choice of going deeper or following Hornet, and for now I choose to go deeper. Hell. Sucker. We are now entering the Mantis Village. For this part of the game, mantises are fairly dangerous enemies, but they also drop a lot of geo, so it's worthwhile to make a visit down here, even if you don't plan on staying for long. Mantises come in two varieties. The flying types, which I believe are juveniles, and the standing types, which are adults. Mantises are also the first enemy that really have a way to punish you for getting in the air. But they're still fairly vulnerable being jump slashed because their timing is a little slow. As you can see. Mantises appear to be some sort of society or culture, not necessarily part of Hallow Nest. They certainly don't appear to be suffering from whatever thing is making things difficult up in the Forgotten Crossroads and the Green Path. They don't spew any orange gunk. We are pretty far off the beaten path here, but Cornifer did mention that the skinny creatures down below gave him a scare and he didn't feel like he could actually take them on, because he is just a cartographer. Which is fair. The game is nice enough to let us know that there's a bench further down here. Okay, that's kind of funny. I've never seen that happen before. Magic can be quite effective against the adult mantises because they don't have any vertical movement to speak of. That's an altogether very helpful bench because it lets us get our bearings. There appears to be somebody over there, but I don't know how to phase through walls, so they'll have to wait. More closed doors. For coming down here, we find the Dashmaster charm, which has some interesting effects. I can't remember if it's 1 slot, 2 slot, or 3 slot. I guess we'll see when we make it back to the bench. There's also this seemingly pointless secret area that we found. But if something in this game is seemingly pointless, it probably just means we have to come back to it later. I think my biggest problem is, aside from just ramming my head into things I shouldn't, is that I'm a little hasty. I get ahead of myself, trying to go fast. Alright, Dashmaster is 2 cost, which is sort of annoying. When we get another slot, I'll probably put that on and mess with it a little bit. More dashing is always good. Well, sort of. For me, it just kind of means that I fall into acid more often. Mulligan. Even though I am trying to raise Geo, it's not necessarily a good idea to fight every enemy that I see. Some of the mantises are in fairly obnoxious locations in terms of just maneuvering around them. But as I mentioned before, a Vengeful Spirit does a pretty big number on them. This is sort of where the area officially changes to the Mantis Village, but we've been in it for a while. Another simple way to take out mantises is to dash in, hit them once, and then dash out. It's a little more time consuming than bouncing on their heads, but it is safer and less prone to getting punished. And here's the big prize of the Mantis Village, the Mantis Claw. This is the wall jump. The wall jump opens a really kind of ridiculous amount of stuff to explore. Like, it's actually kind of unreasonable how much stuff they gate behind wall jumping. The game super opens up at this point, and it's kind of overwhelming, honestly. It also wastes no time in introducing wall jumping puzzles. It's useful not only for the ability to jump, but for the simple ability to slowly slide down walls, which can be very useful by itself. Hell of a door. I sort of object to that. I feel like I wasn't touching that spike. Oh well. The Mantis Village is sort of set up to be a sort of extended tutorial for the wall jumping ability. You can't really get much of anywhere without learning how to use it at least a little bit effectively. Hit that to open that door. Opening doors is very rarely bad in this game. Don't get knocked back into the spikes by hitting a stationary object. That would just be stupid. I'll do it from this side just to be safe. This area is very heavy with shortcuts as well, just from opening doors and whatnot. Some of them are honestly kind of pointless. Okay, I guess we can't go that way unless we challenge these guys. However, this is a very difficult fight for this point in the game. And I don't really want to do it right now. There are some things we can do beforehand to make the battle a lot easier. This is pretty much as far as the path goes down until we deal with the Mantis Lords.
想拿我的这？Yeah. Go 啊，你都来了没 ？Go 啊，你都来了没？
QUIRREL, however, is on hand once you find the Mantis Lords to tell you that actually there's another way you can go. You don't have to fight them right now, and in fact, it's probably a bad idea. You should go upgrade your nail first. Come on. I made that. I totally... Fucking hell. Always look down. Always look down. Anyway, we just want to update our map real quick and go back down to that place that seemed to serve no purpose, but actually does now that we have the Mantis Claws. Hollow Knight sort of works on the Mega Man X rules of wall jumping, wherein you can do it indefinitely, don't worry about it. So, with that knowledge in hand, you absolutely can just sort of scale up completely sheer walls. Though, of course, if they're even slightly segmented, it becomes a bit troublesome. Can't remember if I can even go that way yet. I think I actually need a double jump. Maybe. Yeah, I think I do. Oh, well, that was... I could just go the other way. I'm a fool! Now things get a little trickier with the introduction of spikies. Dashing becomes very useful here for controlled horizontal movement. You do not change altitude at all while dashing. Which is very useful for making precise sort of junctions from one wall to another. So we just rescued Bretta, who seems to have some issues. I did it again! Why am I like this? Whatever. Alright, so for now, we are kind of done in the Mantis Village. We still need to fight the boss eventually, but the game itself seems to think that's a bad idea as we are now. So I'm willing to take the game's advice and go elsewhere. Sadly, getting to and from the Mantis Village is a little bit of a trial, so this is not necessarily the most efficient route, but it's the one that sort of flows the best just from like a narrative flow standpoint. You like, because you find QUIRREL there and he tells you to go upgrade your nail. It's how I first found it anyway. That fragile greed charm is really paying off. The mantises just sort of drop a lot of geo naturally because they're tough enemies, and with the charm it's even more. So I'm actually recouping my losses from a bunch of irresponsible purchases quite rapidly. Like I mentioned, getting the mantis claws really opens things up. And there's a lot to explore, even on the way back to a fork in the road. Fortunately, we don't have quite enough jump height to latch on to anything of use here. So, once again, we'll have to come back later. The general inadequacy of our nail is actually starting to show a little bit here. Even the weaker enemies in this area are taking a lot of hits to down. We found a Wanderer's Journal, which is another collectible type item. This provides an alternate way into the Mantis Village if you are so inclined. It might be a little bit faster than the other way, but then again, the bench that we use is also further down the other way, so it's sort of a risk-reward kind of thing. If you're confident that you can do whatever you want to do in the village without getting dunked on, then by all means go this way, but if you're less confident, maybe take the long way and rest at the bench on the way. Pretty sure I've been pointing my stick down the whole time, but like I said, this is an older controller and this is a 2D game. It might behoove me just to use the directional pad, but I prefer the analog stick. It's comfier. Anyway, with our errands complete down below, it's time to follow Hornet this way. We need the Mantis Claws to progress at all here, so I guess it is the most efficient way. My memory of this game is not always 100%. It was a little while ago when I first played it. This is a large soul totem, which will almost always completely refill your gauge, should you so need it. If you're taking a lot of damage from getting hit by spikes, then it's definitely a useful thing to have. Hitting this lever raises the bridge over the acid, so we don't have to go through that rigmarole again. There's two levers here just I guess as a checkpoint, really. But I did it all in one go because I'm good at wall jumping, I guess. That's a lie. I'm not good at anything in this game. We got the city crest way back from the false night we fought last time. We've got another rumbly little bit of floor here, but again, there's nothing we can really do about it at the moment. Those enemies there I liken most to shriek bats from Metroid Prime, because they shriek and they dive at you and they explode and they look kind of like bats. There's some more new enemies here, even tougher than the mantises. They appear to be guardsmen of some sort. Much better trained than the various bugs we found wandering about the crossroads and the green path. It's usually best to just dash out of the way of the shriek bats. You can technically kill them with a nail swipe, but the explosion they make will probably get you, and it's not worth it. If you have a lot of soul on you, trading blows just to get fights done with quickly is not necessarily the worst idea. But it's rarely the best idea, so... it's one of those things you have to use best judgment on. Like the mantises, these royal guards appear to be fairly weak to getting downstabbed. You can confuse the elevator here, which is kind of neat. Hey! Hey, hey. I wanted to get off there. There doesn't seem to be anything here except a little lore tidbit. And here's QUIRREL again. We can sit on the bench and rest with him if we so desire. Anyway, this is the almost fabled City of Tears. This is like the main hub of Hallownest. It probably wasn't always called the City of Tears, unless whoever named it was very sad at all times. There are a lot of different areas we can access from here, though at the moment our options are a little bit limited. There are still geodeposits here, but they take the form of ornamental chests instead of mineral outcroppings. And here we get our official introduction to the City of Tears. The first order of business is to find the nailsmith. Having an upgraded weapon is key to success. Also, this water is perfectly safe to swim in because it's not an acidic hell pit. So, when I embarrassingly fall down for no reason, it will just be slightly embarrassing and not actively detrimental. you can actually start to see the telltale signs of the nailsmith, which is, namely, nails. And the ever-comforting sound of a hammer on an anvil.
Fendasu. Ah, Ranjo Stenja.
Upgrading your nail costs Geo, but it's pretty much always worthwhile. You also get this neat little cinematic every time.
Garadel Akari. Fendasu.
The first upgrade is more or less free. 250 Geo is not hard to raise at all. However, subsequent upgrades are possible, but they require special material, pale ore. We'll have to be on the lookout for that as we journey, because further weapon upgrades are always good. We're already starting to see the upgrade paying dividends, because enemies that once took 3 hits now take 2, enemies that once take 2 hits now take 1. This is easily one of the more important upgrades in the game. Subsequent upgrades tend to be less dramatic, but they're still useful enough to be worth going after, I think. I just got a neat little parry there, which saved me from taking some unnecessary damage. It was by no means intentional, but sometimes that mechanic is cool and helpful. Now, I skipped the elevator on the way down, but there's an entire upper area to this section. These flying guards can be kind of a pain, because they have a definite advantage in mobility over you. To compensate, they're less sturdy than the guards on the ground. Our reward for coming all the way up here is another Hallownest seal, which I mentioned earlier is useful for a purpose we'll find out pretty soon, if I recall correctly. Magic is a good idea to use against the flying sentries, sort of. It can be difficult to hit them because they sort of float all over the place. Still no map for this area, however. We still need to find Cornifer. Ah! He knocked me out of the room! I hate it when enemies do that. The big guys actually aren't that much tougher than the normal counterparts. The main difference just comes in how they attack. They have this charge, and they also have that sort of jumping attack, which can catch you off guard if you attack from above. Out of my face. I'm trying to explain things. Now, an important thing that you must do in this game is to learn to differentiate the squeals of friendly caterpillars and the squeals of explodey shriek bat bugs. To the untrained ear, they can seem similar. The flying sentries actually come in two varieties, one with normal-looking nails and others with longer javelin-looking weapons. The ones with the javelins can, somewhat unsurprisingly, throw their javelins at you, and that's really annoying. They're probably the hardest enemy here. Property damage is A-okay, because everybody's dead. That was a shortcut, I guess. Some of these areas kind of get complex for the sake of being complex. Another good deed done. Some elevators have multiple tiers you can get to, which is very useful. And sometimes confusing. Hey! No fair, no fair. I was dashing. So were you. This little challenge can be difficult and unexpected, since you usually only have to fight one or two of these guys at a time, but it's not too bad.
Make him noise, Kuchin.
Give me the map, Cornifer. You know the answer is always yes.
Choco, correct this. Choco, correct.
We also have to pay for the bench, because I guess this is one of those swanky high-class cities that makes you pay for things, including benches. Alright, we finally have a map. Oh, hey there, Zote.
Mio caro. Mio caro. Mio caro.
He doesn't have much to say at this point. We actually could see this area from when we first entered the Weeping City. However, the gate was shut and the lever was on the other side of the door, so we had to take the long way around, as we often do. We've seen a couple of these strange-looking plants, but they serve no purpose, at least for now. This appears to be another sort of station. Perhaps a king station to go with the queen station. Or perhaps something else entirely. The simple key is a fairly unique item. There are a finite number of doors that are locked with simple locks. and there are a finite number of keys to go with them. You can buy one from Sly at the general store, and you can find others just laying throughout the world. Most of the doors that you find are not, like, hugely exciting. There are a couple that are useful, and there's some kind of not at all. Finding the keys themselves is also kind of a challenge, because some of them are fairly squirreled away in unlikely places. Ah! Yeah, even the decorative spikes on top of the buildings here are deadly. As usual, we have to pay a toll to open the stagway, but as usual, it's worth it. We're quite a distance away from basically anything down here, so having fast travel access is really good. Even if it is in kind of a out-of-the-way spot. Now would probably be a good time to go and check out what's going on in Dirtmouth. We can't actually seem to talk to Greta at all. But we can sit on the bench with her. Let's see what the Elder has to say.
Oh, jittery.
It seems that tales of our exploits have been somewhat exaggerated.
Yolo no to go with. Madaula misu. Akala emtono.
As usual, the Elderbug has a couple of new things to say. And another house has opened up. With a mask fragment. And a stuffed animal. Of us. Yeah, Greta appears to be quite smitten with the knight. There are, of course, just a multitude of things we can go back and get now that we have the wall jump, but we still have some business, the city storerooms, in the Weeping City, so we should head back there for now. Always pays to reset your respawn point when you go to a new area, just to save some time. Doing that is a sort of quasi-shortcut. It's kind of nice. It saves time dealing with spikies and stuff. Right. There's always spikes. Don't worry, that was to save time. I respawned right next to them. This is not saving any time at all. There we go. A good dash is crucial to this kind of game. It gives you something to do while you're traveling to go a little faster. It's like the roll in Zelda. Anyway, the bench next to Cornifer places us closer to where we want to be. And you know, the healing is always nice. This leads to an entirely new area, and we're not quite done with the Weeping City, so we'll come back in a bit. It's also kind of hard in there. This way is blocked. Half the time when I say something like that, it's mostly just like me remembering half-heartedly, oh yeah, this place is blocked. I came here for nothing. Right. Even the elevators have spikes on them. I think that the bugs of Hollowness might have been a little bit too obsessed with spikes. This particular elevator is a little bit ornery. You have to hit it a lot to get it to where you want it to go.
Son Gian. Velmi Ardred.
So this is, I forget his name. He's kind of a dick, but he will buy little trinkets off you for a pretty incredible amount of geo.
Oh, Paul. Velmi Ardred.
I would say that the trinket exchange is the fastest and most reliable way to get geo in the game.
Velmi Ardred. Kachael Liasoki.
He will also provide a bit of lore each time you give him a new item.
Velmi Ardred. Kachael Liasoki. Helma Delker.
So we've emptied our current stock of relics and whatnot, and we're already up to over 2,000 geo, so that's pretty good. I might be able to finally get that lamp. I'm gonna hold off on using the simple key for now. I'm trying to remember exactly where all the other doors are, and if there are any that are more useful.
Negosa Tros. Hakana Sagamos.
And here's a statue of the eponymous Hollow Knight. It's actually not the knight. coming here is sort of like supposed to be a revelation, but honestly, with the amount of information you have at this juncture, it's kind of not. Like, it's a neat visual and a neat cutscene, but it's still kind of meaningless at this point in time, and I'm pretty sure I can't get up there, so I'm wasting my time. Whoopsie daisy. So for now, we have actually a lot of different places we could potentially go. And I sort of need to decide on that, don't I? Oh dear. Well, I suppose since I'm carrying a lot of Geo, it might be useful to go and actually spend some of it. I'm not particularly worried about losing all of my junk, but I feel like it's a concern that is valid. So maybe what we do is we go back to Dirtmouth, buy some shit like the lantern and maybe a mask shard, and then go from there. Maybe, like, do a bit of a roundup. See what we can get with the wall jump in the Forgotten Crossroads. Oh, then again, I don't believe we've explored all the way down this way. Have we? I do have a tendency to get a little bit lost when I play this game. My sense of direction has always been kind of poor. If I had to guess, I probably spend 50% more time in this game than the average player looking at the map. More tolls! Just when I thought I was rich. Let's see where this leads. Oh, we're back in the Forgotten Crossroads. I remember now. You might think that I'm feigning surprise at these things to make for a more entertaining stream or something, but no, I don't have a particularly great memory of how this game is laid out. No fair, no fair! Lots of husk bugs down here for whatever reason. They're very unimpressive, but in great numbers anything can be kind of dangerous. Now that is not a mask fragment, that is a shard of a soul vessel. They honestly look very similar, so you can be forgiven if you confuse the two. But getting 3 soul vessels will increase the amount of soul you can hold at once, which is very useful. Now, it is my belief that there are actually some secrets in this elevator shaft. No, I must be thinking of a different shaft. Well, that was a waste of time. My apologies. Or maybe you need to come down from below? Is that even possible? I don't think so. We can come down from above. Yeah, because you can't get through these grates. Okay, I must be thinking of a different elevator. There are some charms we could buy at Salubra's place, but again, I want to keep my eyes on the prize and get that lantern, because it's sort of necessary. It's not like strictly necessary, but it's pretty necessary. It's difficult to find your way in the dark in this game. Because the game is wise to your attempts to try and be a cheap ass, and usually puts like spikes and shit around. So it's very difficult to actually, cheat your way through without taking a whole lot of damage. It's possible, of course, but it's difficult and probably not worth it in the long run. You can also see that the Hollow Knight's head is marked on our map at the Black Egg now, which is sort of a pointless thing, but it's there. Oh, hello there. I forgot that this guy respawned. He is still as simple as he was last night. However, he hurts a lot if he gets a hit off, so don't be greedy like me. Ah, right. Our little dash will not get us through there. Suppose at this point, the best play is to just make our way naturally back up to Dirtmouth and see if there's anywhere we can get to that we couldn't before with a wall jump. Down that way lies darkness, if I recall correctly. Looking at the map. Investigating any suspicious looking alcoves, all that good stuff. We could also pay the Grub Father another visit while we're in the area. We've rescued a couple more grubs. Speaking of which, we can finally get this guy because we have the air dash. Oh, I believe that there is also a Mask Shard available at the Queen Station. I should probably take a minute to pick that up as well. There's so much to get! It's hard to stream games like this, at least doing it live, because you sort of have to plan out a route, and I'm not very good at that. And I can't just edit out wandering around like I can in a normal LP. Money, 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 money. Now here's something neat. If you use the wall jump, you can actually find a hidden alcove here. for a little Howl Nest seal. 450 geo, basically for free. Now then, we have business with Sly. That's not the button I meant to press. We're gonna buy a mask shard because it's super cheap. We've almost got a complete mask now. We can actually buy another one if we were so inclined, but then I don't think we would have enough for the lantern. So let's buy this while we're here, and now we don't have to worry about money nearly as much for a while. I'm gonna save my money for the time being, because there is another mask shard we can get for free at the moment. And it's not like that one's going anywhere. There's no point to getting it now if we're gonna be left with 60 geo upon purchase. Back to the Queen Station. Ah! My momentum ruined me. And there we go. There's the mask shard I was talking about. We can now take 6 hits. It's not insignificant. Nothing new going on here. I guess we'll just head back up to Dirtmouth, because I believe that's closest to where I want to go next. It is in the Forgotten Crossroads, but sometimes the positioning of the station in the Crossroads is a little inconvenient if you want to get to something on the west side. Now, we could technically use our simple key on this door over here, but I would not recommend doing that because it offers a service that's kind of pointless in my opinion. Behind that door is an NPC that will, in exchange for a certain item, automatically get you your stuff back on death. The opportunity cost of the key is kind of the big deal here, because the items that it take aren't particularly rare. It's just I never found myself using that service. It's usually quicker to just go and get your stuff than to go all the way back to Dirtmouth and talk to that guy. It's like, I guess if you get stuck on a boss and you want to go and like find some shit to make yourself stronger before taking it on again. It could be useful in that respect, but I sort of know what I'm doing, so I don't think that will happen. Knock on wood. Now, this kind of drives me batty. This is the first time the game tells you that you can look down by holding down the left stick. Right stick, sorry. Would have been useful information if this wasn't like a secret area that you're not guaranteed to even find. It's also like a pretty decent chunk of the way through the game. Gripe, gripe, gripe. Got another large soul totem, should we need it. Appears to be a number of fossilized remains here. That way just leads back up, so we need to proceed this way. Here's an optional boss, the Brooding Mawlek. This guy was the bane of my existence when I first fought him, and there are no guarantees that I'm actually gonna like beat him here because he's pretty hard. Probably should have equipped better charms first. Alright, I remember his pattern a bit better now. Never mind. If you come here without any upgrades whatsoever... Oops, I died. Alright, we'll have to try again. If you come here... Oh, shit, I broke my charm too. Oh, I need to go... Ugh! Everything's gone wrong. Let's see, what? I think Long Nail would be useful here, actually. Anyway, if you come here without any upgrades whatsoever with your base nail and just only 5 mask pieces, you're in for a hard time. The Mawlek is pretty powerful. It has some attacks that are quite hard to dodge. Resting there to save myself a trip down the tramway. The nice thing is that the game will actually tell you where you died on the map. It's denoted with that little inverted Hollow Knight face. That's all spooky and whatnot. Also, the game is nice enough to usually put your shadows outside of boss arenas. The main difficulty in this fight is basically dodging the big stream of goo. Because you have to sort of go over him to do that, and that can be difficult. Alright, I'm remembering how to do this now. This won't be too bad. Though this guy did roadblock me for quite a while in my first playthrough because like I mentioned, came in with no upgrades. You're gonna at least want an upgraded nail here. Because the fight can turn into a bit of a damage race. One that I won. Our reward for beating this thing up is another mask fragment. And we're sort of back where we started. then, let's see. There are a number of places we could potentially go now. Game really opens up, etc., etc. Alright, I think I am going to make the executive decision to go ahead and explore the upper part of the City of Tears. I keep calling it the Weeping City because I'm Final Fantasy XIV trash and I raid forever. Weeping City, City of Tears, it's basically the same thing. Come on. Oh, actually, well, no, this is still the right way if we want to do that. Okay, I'm making a slight adjustment, actually. There is a fairly cool secret area we can get to now, I think. I last played this back in August, so it might have been a good idea to sort of warm myself up before I hopped right into starting it, but I don't know. I'm not wasting that much time, am I? Am I? Oh god, I'm wasting so much time. We are going back to a familiar area where we found the Balder shell, but now that we have the wall jump, we can do a lot more there. Once I remember the right way. Hey. On the bright side, now that we have an upgraded sword, we can kill those in 2 hits. As opposed to the 3 it used to take. Help save on soul for healing and actually tough enemies. I should probably go and repair my fragile greed charm, but I don't know. It's not that big of a deal now that we made our major purchases. I don't like that leg eater guy anyway. Creeps me out. Alright, we're back here once again, but this time we are much better equipped to actually explore this area. At least if I remember right. And I don't drop onto spikes all the time forever. Ah, right, here's what I was looking for. This shaft. There's a little grub friend we should probably rescue at some point. Sounds so sad. They did a good job on the sound design with them. You just want to help. Looks like this is a way down, but I'm not sure I want to go down at the moment. This area is almost entirely optional. In fact, I think it might be entirely optional. The Howling Cliffs. First order of business is to pick up the King's Idol, which is something you can sell to the trinket monger for a lot of geo. It's a really nice find. Wind is too strong to go back that way. It would lead us basically out of bounds. The Howling Cliffs are actually situated on the upper left side of Dirtmouth. It's almost where we started the game. A little further up. Gathering Swarm is, of course, invaluable to actually getting any geo from those things. The enemies here are fairly non-threatening. Some more lore from this thing. And a Wanderer's Journal. Lots of money coming in. We can hear Cornifer, but we can't see him. Still, it's nice to know that he's nearby. You can find Cornifer in, I think, all but one area of the game. He's quite the explorer. And here's the paper trail. Hey there, friend.
Hanvimapta.
Always grab the map.
Chokole kerektis.
He mentions finding a strange bug here. Here's, I think, the first instance we'll find in this playthrough of the lantern being useful. We can actually see what we're doing, which is useful because there's spikes all over the place. I land on them anyway. Clutch save by me. Totally intentional. Not again! I should just always assume spikes, especially in this area. That guy spawned mid-air where I was. That is, like, very rude. Seems that we've come across a trove of lifeblood flowers, or whatever they're called. The extra shields, basically. Given how much I've been falling down, I'm sure they will come in handy. Then again, they don't seem to be dropping anything, so maybe it's just for scenery. Can't quite break that yet. Oh my. We get a special charm from exploring down here fully, Joni's Blessing. I believe what it does is that it replaces all of your normal health with blue lifeblood health. But in return for not being able to heal normally, you get more of them. So it's arguably a useful charm for boss fights where it's extremely difficult to heal yourself anyway, because later bosses tend to get very aggressive when you do that. There are a couple of other uses for it as well. That will become apparent much later. My kingdom for a bench. I just want to write down my map stuff. I'm kind of lost. Stop it. More improbably placed geo deposits. Fortunately, there is no fall damage in this game, so even if we slip up here, it's not bad, it just wastes time. Which is, I guess, bad. The Howling Cliffs are a little bit sparse because this is a pretty much totally optional area. Inside this mysterious dwelling, we find our bench. And a friend.
To sta jugando.
There is no downside to learning a nail art. Generally speaking, I don't use these techniques very often, but they are situationally useful, and like I said, it doesn't hurt to know them.
Summit. Bam. Final.
There are two other nail masters that are in the world of Hallow Nest. And maybe even the great nail sage himself. Let's demonstrate the technique real quick. It's definitely powerful, it just takes a while to charge up. It also has fairly good reach compared to your normal slash. I will try to make a point of using it. Here lies Gorb, the Great Mind. Gorb. Well, if he says he's a great mind, I'm not gonna doubt him. That just about does it for the Howling Cliffs, at least for now. Even secret areas have things you can come back to in this game. They lean very heavily into that. I respect it. And here we can go down into Dirtmouth. Though again, this is actually where we started the game. I believe this to be the only way to re-access this area. And there are some things worth finding here. At least, if my memory isn't playing tricks on me. That wasn't that long ago. Surely I remember at least this much. Yeah. Right. So for our troubles, we get the Fury of the Fallen, which is basically the Danger Mario badge. More cryptic lore. We could have actually gone back here as early as we had the Mothwing Dash, I think. Though then again, there is sort of the problem: how will we get here in the first place? There's probably a way. I'm just being thorough to make sure that I don't miss anything. Since this area is kind of a pain to come back to, I don't want to necessarily have to trek all the way to the Howling Cliffs. If I had timed that better, I could have made it across without issue. Oh well. Oh, right. This is where we came up. Right. Right, yeah. And here we are. Okay, yeah, I'm pretty sure you can only get back to this area once you have the wall jump. Alright, I've got about 10 minutes before I need to stop. What can we accomplish in 10 minutes? If you double tap L1, you can see the whole world map, which is a useful feature to be sure. I guess we could go repair our Fragile Greed badge. It is kind of out of the way, though, isn't it? Not really. Alright, let's go do that and call it a day. I believe from where we were positioned it'll be faster just to fall down than take a stagway. Making our way back to the fungal wastes. I hope it's not too expensive to repair. I don't actually remember. I don't think I used these charms very heavily in my first playthrough because I died a lot. before in the fungal waste to get with wall jumping, but I think I've also sort of cleaned out the area. I'll buy this while we're here. Fragile Strength is one of the few charms that directly boosts your attack damage. Alright, been going for 2.5 hours. That's pretty good. I think that I will leave off here and start up again. I'm not sure if I can find time tomorrow, but definitely by Friday I will be able to stream again. So until then, I hope you all have a pleasant week.